Are you ready for our lesson? Good. I am too. Now, the reason we added this Grace Kids Hour is because we want to help you love God more and more, learn His Word better and better, and live like Jesus now and forever. And the Bible's a really big book. It's one big book comprised of 66 smaller books, and they were written a long time ago, but they still tell us about Jesus and how to love God better. 4 of the books in the Bible all tell us the story of Jesus' life. King Jesus, his life, his death, and his resurrection. Do you know what the names of the 4 Gospels are? That's right. They're named after the people who most likely wrote the story of Jesus' life. Matthew and John actually knew Jesus firsthand, and we're going to look specifically at Matthew and his telling of King Jesus' life. I want to help you learn what Matthew teaches about King Jesus. Some of it will be stuff you've already heard. Some of it will be new to you. And we're even going to encourage you to read Matthew at home, on your own, with a parent, grandparent, or whoever takes care of you each week. But enough with the boring stuff. You've probably noticed I have a Christmas tree here, and you're thinking, it's not Christmas anymore? Yeah, Christmas ended months ago? That's right. It's February. It's almost Valentine's Day, which is why I brought Valentines for every one of you children that I'll give to you after the lesson. So why do I have a Christmas tree up here? Well, before I answer that question, let me ask you another question. Does your family have a real tree or a fake tree for Christmas? When I was little, very little, we used to have a real tree. We never chopped them down. We went to one of those Christmas tree lots and picked one out, put it on a car, brought it home. We'd have to put it on a stand, give it plant food and water to make sure that it didn't die right away. But you know what happens to a tree that gets chopped down and doesn't get enough water? Yeah, it dies. That's right. And the needles turn orange and brown and they fall off. They pile up on the ground. The branches get brittle. Eventually you can just snap them and break them off. So my parents eventually got a real tree because they were tired of the mess. And they were also tired of us kids every year at the end of Christmas looking out the window at the dead Christmas tree at the curb, waiting for the garbage truck to come by and pick it up and take it to the trash. Bye-bye, Christmas tree. When you have a fake tree, you don't see the needles falling off, and the branches don't break, and Mom and Dad don't throw it out by the curb. A fake tree was never alive. But a real tree was alive. A real tree had a birth story. Every tree has a birth story. Do you know how a real tree was born? Yeah, it was a seed. That's right, it was a seed, and every real tree was once a seed. Every real tree had a birth story. Now, I have a question for you. Are you a real kid or a fake kid? Are you flesh and blood with a birth story, or are you PVC? That stands for polyvinyl chloride. If you're real, then you had a birth story. And you know what's true of every birth story? You had a mom and a dad. Who had a mom and a dad? Who had a mom and a dad? Who had a mom and... You get the point. And we can trace all of our roots back to Adam and Eve. This long line of moms and dads is called your family tree. This is where you came from. It explains who came before you. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great, and so on. Now, I know not everyone currently lives with a mom and dad. Some moms and dads never met. Some moms and dads never got married. Some moms and dads get divorced. Sometimes one parent dies. Sometimes one parent gets a new spouse. And family trees are messy, and they're confusing. But each one of us has a family tree. Each of us started our lives with a mom and a dad, and Even if our moms and dads are still together, our family tree isn't perfect. Every family tree is broken. Say that with me. Every family tree is broken. Every family tree is broken. But here's the good news. God isn't going to throw your family tree out by the curb for the garbage truck to come get it. God did something better. He sent his son, Jesus, to earth to fix the broken family tree. Before Jesus came to earth, he lived in heaven with God the Father and the Holy Spirit, and they wanted a bigger family. So they created Adam and Eve. But Adam and Eve wanted to be in charge. They didn't want God to be in charge. They wanted to do things their own way. So God said, from this point forward, your family tree is going to be messy and confusing and broken. But he promised he'd fix it someday with a new seed. That new seed was Jesus. And almost every story in the Bible talks about the brokenness in our big family tree. People hurting other people, folks stealing, telling lies, having a bad attitude and grumbling and complaining, or treating rocks like they're gods. The family tree was broken, but God wanted to fix it. So he sent his son to earth. Like us, Jesus had a birth story. I have a birth story. I was born April 14. We celebrate Jesus' birth on December 25th. Like our birth stories, Jesus had an earthly mom and dad. I had Fred and Barb. He had Joseph and Mary. You know the name of his parents. We also had grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-great. And you can read all about that in Matthew chapter 1. But Jesus' birth story was special. People call his special birth the virgin birth, and it was a miracle. Here's what happened. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. But before they came together, Matthew writes, she was found to be with child through the Holy Spirit. In other words, Mary and Joseph didn't try to have a baby. They didn't do anything to create a baby. Mary just one day heard from God, I'm giving you a baby. She was surprised. Joseph was shocked. And they didn't want to tell anyone because no one would believe them that the Holy Spirit just gave her a baby. You know, people don't often believe in miracles. And this was a miraculous birth. So why did God have Jesus start as a baby in Mary's womb without the help of Joseph? Well, two reasons. First, if God was the real Father through the Holy Spirit, then Jesus would not be affected by the broken family tree. Second, God made a promise long, long ago that he would send a child, a seed, to fix the brokenness. Matthew tells us this in his story of the miraculous birth. Here's what he wrote. Matthew chapter 1, Mary will give birth to a son, and you will give him the name Jesus because he will save his people from their sins, from their brokenness. And this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will be with child and give birth to a son. They'll call him Emmanuel, God with us. So Jesus came to earth to fix the broken family tree. Did you know you need to be fixed? Did you know that you're broken? Did you know that your family tree, your mom, your dad, your brother, your uncle, your grandpa, your grandma, it's messy. It's confusing. It's broken. And you know what people do? They try to fix themselves. They try to clean up ugly parts and hide their flaws and pretend they don't have problems or dress them up like a Christmas tree. But we can't fix ourselves. You can't fix yourself. Jesus needed to fix us. All of us. The whole big family tree. So God sent Jesus into the world, into Mary and Joseph's family tree, to fix it so we could be part of a better family. God's family. So let's do our chant again. I am a child of God. I am a child of God.